Hey, I'm Johnny May from Piano with Johnny, and today I'm going to teach you my Gospel Love Groove from my Gospel Groove series. Now this is a really fun gospel groove to play. Check it out. So as you can hear, it's super fun to play, and this is an intermediate level course. So if you're on the early side of intermediate or the later side, this is going to be perfect for you. So let's go ahead and start the lesson. Okay, so before we start the groove, I actually want to show you what this chord progression is because it's a very popular chord progression in gospel music. Okay, so we are in the key of C major, and our first chord is a C dominant 7. Okay, so this is C, E, G, and B flat. These are the notes of a C7. And since we're in the key of C, we call this the 1 chord, right? Because it's built on the first degree of the key we're in. Now, the second chord that's really important to know is the F7. And that's going to be here. So we've got F in the left hand, we have C, E flat, F, and A in the right hand. And this is an F7 chord, and this chord is built on the F, which is the 4th note or 4th degree of a C scale, so we call this the 4 chord, okay? And this is the primary progression, is sort of moving between the 1 and the 4, and this is very common in gospel music. You'll hear it all the time, and so that's kind of what we're doing here. Now later on we will play some really fun kind of jazzy chords, you know, going up to this F7, E7, B flat 7, A7. I'll show you these a little bit later in this lesson, but first I want to talk about this initial chord progression of the 1 to the 4, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to teach you this groove. This is a 2-measure groove, and then it repeats itself throughout throughout this, you know, entire groove. So the really cool thing is once you learn these 2 measures, you're going to have about 75% of this whole groove learned. Isn't that great? So it's very repetitive. And so let's go ahead and start here with the right hand, okay? So here's kind of the first 2 measures of the right hand. I'll play it for you, then we'll break it down. Here's how it goes. That's it, right? So what we're doing here is we're striking these notes of a C7, and we've got G, B flat, and G. So go ahead and play that. Okay, we're going to strike that, and then we're going to roll down a C9 chord. Now, a C9, you might be thinking, what's that? Well, a C9 is a C7 with an added 9th. And the 9th is the D. Okay, C7, there's your 9. And so what we're doing is we're just rolling down an inversion of a C9 chord. The notes here are E, D, B flat, G. And the trick here is you want to get it nice and smooth. The magic of the blues, this is actually a blues riff, but I always tell my students, the magic of the blues is in the timing, right? And if you get these little rolls really smooth, oh, it sounds like magic, okay? So it's really important, smooth, and I always tell my students, smooth like butter, right? Smooth like butter, and just repeat that little roll again and again, until all the notes are even. If it's kind of choppy, you know, then you need to work on that. Get that nice and smooth. Okay, so we have that initial chord strike, we got the roll, and then we have this. Okay, what we're doing here is we're playing B flat and G. Also pay attention to my fingers. I'm using the 2 on B flat, the pinky on the G. So I've got that, and then G, and then back up to the chord, and then this guy here, okay? Now I'm going to the F7 chord here. And it's very common in blues and in gospel music to slide notes from the chord. And that's precisely what I'm doing, is I'm sliding the third of the chord, which is an A, I'm sliding it from the G sharp. So I'm striking G sharp and F together, and then coming up to the A. And I would just practice that. Just get that technique down nice and solid. Okay, so here's measure 1. We'll go slow. 1 and 2, and you got the roll. 3, 4 to the slide. Okay, good. And then the last part is this cool little fill. And that's just filling in the sound while the left hand takes the melody. So what are we doing here? Well, we're playing the notes of the F7 chord, and it's a 3-note chord. So this is E flat, A, and C. Pretty simple chord there. Fingering here is 1, 3. There's my middle finger. It's a little hard to see in the overhead view here, but 1, 3, and then pinky on the C. Now, the cool thing we're going to do, though, is we're going to slide the A again, right? We're going to slide the third, like I said earlier. So instead of just playing this, you're going to play that, okay? And what I'm doing here is I'm hitting E flat, G sharp, and C, and then I'm hitting that, and then coming up to the A. That's it. Now, we're only going to do that on the first one. The rest of them we're just going to fill with these 3 notes. Now on the slide, there's a couple fingering options. You can use your third finger on the G sharp, like that, where you come up to the A, or you can use the 2 finger on the G sharp, and then come up to the third finger. You see, like this, that would be the 2, and then just the third finger would be like that. My preference is to use the same finger for slides. I think you get a little more accent on the first note when you just use 1 finger as opposed to using 2 fingers, but it's up to you. Fingering is somewhat subjective, so pick the fingering that works best for you, okay? So we've got the initial hit, and then we're gonna do, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're gonna hit 6 of those, right? And then for the final chord, we're gonna come back to our C7, okay? And this is basically E, B flat, and C, which is the C7 chord. Except we're going to slide the third again. So this is going to be D sharp, B flat, and C, and then strike that, and then come up to the E. Not much to it, okay? And this concludes the second measure of this phrase, okay? So here's what I want to do. Let's go and play both of these measures. We're just going to look at the notes, and then we'll talk about the rhythm, okay? So here we go. Here's the first chord strike. Let's roll it down. And then up to G flat and B flat, down, up, and then to our F7 chord. And then we're going to do the little fill, starting with the slide. You see how many of those we had? We had 6, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, back up to the C7. And those are the notes, okay? So congratulations, you got the notes. Now we got to work on rhythm. Okay, so what's the rhythm here? Let me play it for you, and I'll count it. Here it is. 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1. That's it. We'll do it slowly. Here it is. 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and that last chord there, you're pushing the chord, right? Instead of coming in on beat 1, you're coming in on the and of 4, and we call this pushing the beat. So make sure you do that on the C7, 3 and 4, and you're pushing it there on the and, okay? In fact, this is very common in blues and in gospel music, is to push the beat, meaning you just place it a little bit early. It's usually on the and, like the and of beat 4, okay? Let's go ahead and play it a little bit faster, and we'll play it together, and go ahead and play it along with me. Make sure you have it solid at a slow tempo before you speed it up, okay? Here it is. 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 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 3 and 4 and All right, very good. And if you can play at that tempo, you're doing a great job. That's about a medium tempo. Ideally, it should be about here. 4, 1, 2, 4. Okay, now let's talk about the left hand. Left hand's actually pretty simple. Check it out. Pretty cool left-hand bass line. Okay, so what we're doing here is we're starting with the G by itself. And this is a technique I love to do where instead of starting the tune on beat 1, you go like this. 2, 3, 4, and 1. Okay? It's a little pickup for the song. Ker-chunk, right? That's another term I'll use as ker-chunk. And usually what I'll do in terms of the chord is I'll go 5-1. So the chord is C, which, roots would be C, but the ker-chunk is going to go 5 to the root. In fact, I not only use this at the beginning of songs, I'll use it often just whenever the chord changes. Like if I'm going to an F chord, I'll go ker-chunk, right? Where I'm going to an F7, root 7, and I'm going 5 to the chord. In fact, I'm going to be using that here as well, but just keep that in mind. Rather than going to the chord on the beat, use this little 5-1 pattern and it kind of sets it up. It's a cool sound, okay? So I'm going 5 to the root, and then I'm walking up, and that's a D sharp, up D sharp to E. You see that? And then I'm going to jump up here to C chord, which I mentioned a little bit ago. Okay, so for this guy, I'm going to go, 2 finger on the C, and then maybe, root 7 on the bottom. Nice little foundation there for our F7 chord. Now, fingering, like I mentioned earlier, fingering is subjective. There's not really one right way to finger it. Oftentimes, there are several ways that you can finger it, and you kind of want to find the fingering that works best for you. The general rule of thumb, there's a few rules, but you generally want to avoid using the same finger on a lot of notes. You also kind of want to avoid the thumb on the black keys. But for example here, you can go 3-2, or you can go 4-3. Doesn't matter. I actually go, sometimes I'll use the same finger, and that's okay. But generally kind of avoid using the same finger on many consecutive notes. Okay, so we've got C, 3, 4, we're here, and then we do this walk up. Okay, and that is really cool. That is gospel music right there, where the bass takes the melody. Right? So cool. Love this sound. And what we're doing here is we're playing octaves on the A, and we're basically walking up into the C chord, right? Using chromaticism. And chromaticism is when we play each consecutive note either going up or it might be going down. In this case, we're going up. So A sharp, B into C. That's it. Okay? So let's do this whole left hand together. We've got G by itself into the octave. We're going to go D sharp to E, and then C to the F chord, and then A sharp, B, and then we're going to go C, C. And this is top, bottom. And that sort of concludes this 2-measure phrase. Okay? Let's talk about the rhythm now. So you should have the notes in your hand. The rhythm goes like this. 3 and 4 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. And what's happening here is on that little walk up, we're syncopating it, meaning we're accenting all of the offbeats. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. And it creates this really cool sound when you play that against the right hand, which is playing on all the primary beats, which are 1, 2, and 3, and 4. This is very common in jazz and blues, gospel, ragtime music. This idea of syncopation, where the hands sort of play against each other. Okay? So we'll do the left hand rhythm once more slowly, and then we'll put the hands together. Here we go. 3 and 4. And 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 That's the rhythm there. Okay, let's talk about putting the hands together. Hey, I hope you enjoyed this little gospel groove. You can find the full-length groove on pianowithjonny.com, as well as my other gospel grooves. I have a whole series called the Gospel Groove Series. Also, be sure to check out the Piano with Jonny membership, which gives you access to all of my video piano tutorials, and I teach you songs and styles that you really like. Things like jazz, blues, pop, rock, boogie, ragtime, swing, Latin, funk, so many great styles. And you also get access to a huge selection of my sheet music. We do live monthly events like workshops and Q&As, and you also get personalized coaching with me. So be sure to check that out, and I'll see you in the next lesson. Take care.